From the legendary studios at Staten Island CTV, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another sports extravaganza. I'm Mike Pinto, alongside my co-host and brother, Anthony Pinto. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah. All right, Mike, a very enthusiastic crowd. And
another standing ovation?
Yeah, I love that lead-in, the opening graphic, the miracle. What would be a good caption for that one? How about balls of steel? That's the Patriots really stole one.
That's it. You're right, Anthony. And well, that was Sports Illustrated, so we'll give them a pop. And we'll say, the catch, the comeback, the crown. Tom Brady was quoted as saying that the catch was, was it an optical illusion when we're watching it?
It defied gravity, he said.
It really did.
It really did defy
Edelman
gravity.
makes the catch, and Tom Brady was quoted as saying, I don't know, because I literally don't know how he caught it.
Tyree 2.0, right? They could call it that too.
You're right. We're watching the game, ladies and gentlemen, and one of the great things about the Super Bowl is we always watch
it together. It's a
as
great
a family.
Excuse, right?
But not a great game initially. 21-3 at half, and then 28-3 in the third quarter. And we're all looking and we're saying, wow, blowout.
Crowd is on, and only your brother-in-law, Johnny Monahan, said, don't count out the Patriots, and he was right.
That's right. Up to that point, Lady Gaga was the highlight of the show. We're looking at Johnny like he's Gaga. But you want to know something?
31 unanswered points by the Patriots.
34-28 in overtime. They set or tied 30 records. Brady for most completions, most attempts, most yards, just across the board.
It was unbelievable. From time to time, you get a game like that, and you talk about the perfect storm, right? Like every one of those things had to happen as unbelievable as they were, or else you could get a different outcome.
You're right. We'll go over to our next graphic if we can. We were talking about Brady, but you know what? And then we have wow, dynamic duo, if you want to call it that. You could, Anthony, you could debate if Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback ever. Right. In my lifetime, I'd say he is. But you want to know something? You got the Lombardi Trophy, and then you got Belichick, and then you could debate if he's the greatest head coach of all time, and you could debate it. And I would say Lombardi takes a back seat to no one, maybe because he's Italian, maybe because Lombardi was from Brooklyn. But let's be honest,
he's got to be right up there. Right.
But there's no debating that those two guys as a tandem, as a duo, right?
Right, and they both needed each other. You can't, like they said, Belichick, if he was still with the Browns or the Jets, would they win 5? Probably not.
No.
And then Brady, without a coach like that, maybe he doesn't win all those championships. So the dynamic duo. That must have been some scene up there with Goodell, right? After all that went on, that had to be some scene.
So Brady with the 5 Super Bowls, the only quarterback with 5 Super Bowl rings, 4 Super Bowl MVPs, and and the same thing.
Only Eli was able to defeat him.
The rest would be 7-0. Go a little bit out of order, but we go over to G4 if we can. There was a Rutgers tie-in to this whole Super Bowl, and those 3 gentlemen, Logan Ryan, you had Devon McCourty, and Duron Harmon, they all went to Rutgers University.
The school that had the most representatives was Rutgers. That's unbelievable.
Was that amazing,
Yeah,
Anthony?
that was amazing.
And then you even had on the other side of the ball, Sanu, the wide receiver for the Falcons.
Right.
So, you say, how is this possible? But Bill Belichick definitely has, a pipeline to Rutgers University, and it's great to see from a local standpoint. And you know what? If we can go over to our next graphic, we have our next guest played for Rutgers University, and we're going to welcome him in. His name is Andy Carino. Andy, thanks for stopping down.
Hey, buddy.
We go back a long way. We kind of grew up together, but you grew a lot more than I did. And
you know what? And up.
What we'll do, Andy, is we're just going to take a walk down memory lane. Let's stay with Rutgers for a minute if we can. And you could make the argument, if we go over to our next graphic, Rutgers played Alabama, and it was a legendary game. You played against, on the other sideline of all coaches, Anthony, Bear Bryant. That was the program from 1980. Rutgers lost 17-13, but it was arguably the greatest game that Rutgers ever played. You were a linebacker on that team, you were the captain on that team, and in a minute we'll explain some of the your players on the team that played in the NFL. But kind of take us through that day if you can.
Well, a little disappointing because when we were looking forward to this game for me for 3 years, and it was raining, so he didn't wear the houndstooth hat. He had a baseball cap on. And if you watch photos of that game, that took a lot away from me. But we went out there and we didn't know what to expect, but we really brought it that day. We had some great players on our team, and we held our own. They say it may have been the most pivotal game in Rutgers football, the most determining game of the future of Rutgers.
Probably was.
You know, we have a couple of graphics, and then we'll go over to them. Bill Pickel and Deron Cherry were on your team on the defensive side of the ball, both outstanding NFL players. Pickel with the Raiders for the most part, and I believe he played, I think at the end of his career, he played for the Jets, as a matter of fact. We don't have Ira here today to fact check us, but I think he did. And the interesting thing is, and then Deron Cherry played also on your team. You were the captain of the team, and Pickel, he was drafted in the second round.
Yes.
Deron Cherry was undrafted,
Yes.
and he was a 5-time Pro Bowler.
Yes.
4 times.
Amazing.
I mean, that's really amazing. Andy, back then, tell our viewers, if you can, what the dynamics were from going to a university that, let's say, for example, was not necessarily known as a powerhouse in terms of a feeder for the NFL versus today, because everybody knows the combines, et cetera. Tell us back in 1980, what the kind of dynamic was.
Well, again, a lot of our players didn't have the chance to go to a top 20 team, college. Bill Pickel went to the Milford Academy because no one recruited him out of St. Francis Prep in Brooklyn. Came to Rutgers as a freshman, got hurt, matured a little bit. He obviously developed into a superstar football player. Deron Cherry, I'm not sure his history, but he came to Rutgers, probably wasn't highly recruited. Went to the Kansas City Chiefs. He was probably the top 3 punters in the country. As a punter, didn't make the team. Ted Cottrell was our defensive coordinator, called Marv Levy, says, get this kid a shot at defensive back. Then he goes the next year. He makes the team that same year. Gary Barbaro gets picked up by Donald Trump and the Generals, and Deron fills in and becomes a 6-time All-Pro.
Amazing story.
And Bill Pickel, that was a trivia question. Bill Pickel and Deron Cherry that year were both All-Pros from the same school. We were the only school with 2 All-Pros. It was Rutgers back then. Probably the only 2 guys playing in the pros at that time from our school. Great stuff.
He racked up a lot of sacks in the
65 sacks in 12 seasons.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he's right up there.
Did he have an unusual stance in the NFL in terms of going down with in a stance with all
Well, it wasn't
all four, so to
not like a
speak?
Randy White or Joe Klecko, no. But
Okay.
funny thing was, Bill and I were at defensive ends together, and they moved him down to nose guard because they had Alzado and Howie Long, so he became a nose guard. He was basically out of position, doing that well.
That's amazing. All right, we'll go over to our next graphic if we can, because here we go. We got a picture of Bill Parcells, and he's being hoisted on the shoulders of Lawrence Taylor, and that looks like Carl Banks
Yes, it
also.
is. Yes.
That was a winning moment when they won the Super Bowl. Andy, matter of fact, we'll go over to the graphic after that. You were signed by the, here we go, we got you right there. You were signed by the Giants. You were given a signing bonus, and you were given a rookie contract.
Yes.
There's a story that our viewers would probably find hard to believe. But during a scrimmage, they tried you out at tight end just for a scrimmage because they had a lot of obviously big names on the defensive side of the ball. You get into a violent collision with Lawrence Taylor, and you knock him out cold, like accidentally, so to speak. You go running down the field, and there's Lawrence Taylor out cold. I remember reading it in the Daily News, and everybody saying, "Who is this Andy Carino from Brooklyn? He wears an earring." Back in the day, they weren't wearing earrings and everything like that. But said, "Who is this kid?"
Yeah.
I mean, that's
maybe I was subconsciously thinking if I knock him out, I get a job at
get a
linebacker
job.
again. But no, great guy. He hit me. I was lucky enough to fall on my feet, and I thank God I ran to the right goalpost, because I just saw goalposts and ran to them. I could have been running to the wrong end zone. I wouldn't have known it. But it was a surreal moment.
And the amazing thing about that, ladies and gentlemen, is that he's on the team, and who knows how that kind of impacted you and maybe Parcells' opinion of you or whatever when you're trying to make the team. But we'll go over to our next graphic if we can. Now this kind of brings it full circle with Belichick. Belichick, we all know that he is an amazing talent evaluator, and you sent me this picture. And ladies and gentlemen, when you look at this, Andy, you have the cropped shirt. You're in the left-hand side of the screen. You were jacked. I mean, you were a big dude. And on the right side of the screen, Anthony, he's got the he's got the hoodie. As a matter of fact, he's wearing short pants, and he's walking along. And Belichick was a lot younger there, but you signed a contract with the USFL, and Belichick said you should have kind of hung around because he was going to definitely take you on the team. But you caught Belichick's eye, and the amazing thing is that, in fact, we can go over to the next graphic. Bill Belichick, as we know today, he has an eye for players. That's a much younger Bill Belichick there. But the amazing thing about Belichick is he's got an eye for talent, and he doesn't just, he has the ability to take a square peg, put it in a round hole, however you want to say it. We saw it in the Super Bowl, Anthony. Yeah. It not only Rutgers is a tie-in, but you got a kid that's a star, receiver, and he was playing lacrosse in college. You got another guy that was working at Jack in the Box. He looks at heart, and you were fearless, Andy. And for whatever reason, and for good reason, Belichick never forgot that. And you had a tryout soon after that. Tell us about that story with Bill Belichick, if you will.
Well, knowing Bill, I left football for some personal reasons. I wanted to come back. He says, come on down. We had a big tryout, 350 guys. Brings me back. He goes, we're going to sign you. At this time, he was defensive coordinator. Parcells was the head coach. And I sort of felt bad for Bill. He walks me in the locker room. There's Carl Banks, there's LT, and he comes out with his head down like he just lost his puppy. What's the matter, Bill? He goes, Parcells won't even talk to you. So Bill would recognize a player for certain things that maybe Parcells didn't. And I just thought, I felt bad for Bill in the sense that Parcells wouldn't give him that gratitude at that moment to say, let me just say to Andy, thanks, but no thanks. But they were two different type of people. I just think Bill Belichick takes 3-star players with 5-star attitudes. Parcells got great players, therefore he's a great coach with a great history. He's in the Hall of Fame, so you can't argue with either one's success. They both could be yellow jackets, but gold jackets. But I like Belichick. I believe in the way he believes in people.
And it is amazing what we have on our desk here. We have a giant helmet from back in the day, the Jersey Generals. That was interesting because when you signed with the Jersey Generals, it wasn't really like you were taking a step back. You played on the same team as Herschel Walker. This was a good
talent.
team. There was a lot of talent, and then you also played in the USFL. It's really amazing when you rattle off the coaches that you played for. George Allen, you played for the Chicago Blitz, and then you also mentioned something about DiBartolo, who ended up being the owner of the 49ers. He owned the USFL team. I mean, just tell us just briefly about rubbing elbows with all of these great, NFLers.
Well, honestly, I didn't. Thanks to the internet today, you get on, you start Googling your friends and the people, the places you worked. Ed DiBartolo Jr. owned the 49ers, but he also was able to own a USFL team because it wasn't in conflict with the NFL. So he was my owner with the Pittsburgh Maulers. I wound up, that's when I quit football, running first team. I just said, I'm done playing.
That was enough.
And so he was my owner there. George Allen was a part owner of the Chicago Blitz, was an amazing guy. He could tell you what you had for breakfast three years ago. He knew everything about every athlete in the league. Great talent evaluator. Yeah.
Getting back to Belichick, there was another amazing story that you told, and I don't even know if in the control room if they have it, but there was a game with the Rams in a playoff game. The Giants lost a heartbreaker to the Rams, and Flipper Anderson. All of the Giant fans out there know what I'm talking about. Yep. Okay, game goes into overtime, and Flipper Anderson makes you got it. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
And what happens is Belichick calls for an all-out blitz. So you got single coverage. Flipper Anderson makes the catch, runs into the end zone and through the tunnel. That was a rip your heart out moment.
Yes.
Okay, tell us, about that day and your interaction with Bill.
I see Terry. That might be Collins there, but
yeah,
that was
Collins,
like a walk-off home run in the Yankee game or something. And you lose.
Heartbreak City.
Place went silent. Everybody just heads for the aisles. It's literally that instantaneous. I'm sitting with Bill's wife in the stands in the grandstand. So I'm like, well, I'll just walk you out, Mrs. Belichick, and I'll sit in the parking lot till Bill comes out. But I'm sure he's not going to be one for conversation. He's not going to want to have a drink after this. Yeah. He comes out, head down, and everybody has say he has an attitude. He's dry, he's crass. He comes up, he looks at me, he goes, Andy, we really could have used you today. I'm like, way to
Probably
break the
right.
ice, Bill. I mean, with all that on his shoulders, he still
he
had
managed to
he's
make
got a
that
dry
comment,
sense of humor.
right.
He really is. You know, I wanted to start writing the papers and calling. He's a great human being. He really is. He's just that's.
It also shows how much he liked you. You know what I mean? He saw something.
Yeah.
It's really ironic. But if he was the head coach back then, you would have been on the team and you would have had a long career. You know, again, guys in the control room. I apologize. I don't know. You know, if we have a graphic. Andy sent me so many great pictures. It's hard for me to select. But you were always a champ. You were a champ in Pee Wee football. You won a state championship.
Right.
I mean, back in the day.
That's a general shot up
Yeah,
there.
that's a Jersey General shot. But we
start-
got one when you were a little kid. You know, with the what was the name? Was this
The Brooklyn Hurricanes.
The Brooklyn Hurricanes.
Out of Marine Park.
How old were you then?
11 years old. I was a little tall, so I had to play with the older kids, and so we won the city champion and the state championship, which was nice.
You know, the one thing that you said that really resonated with me was that, you know, how violent the game was. And that was back then, you know, whatever, 30 or so years ago. And now the players are, you know, bigger and stronger, faster, steroids, who knows, you know, what contributes to it. And you just got to wonder, you know, the things that are coming out now with, you know, with the links between, you know, brain injuries and, you know, how serious this really is. And every year there's a new guy added to the list, whether it's Kenny the Snake, you know, Stabler, or now what happened with Mark Gastineau.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's interesting because locally here, a Bronx assemblyman is proposing legislation that any child below the age of 14 cannot play tackle football.
Right.
And I said, yeah, that probably makes sense with everything that's coming out. But amazingly, it's very controversial. They can't get the bill passed because the other side of the fence is, well, it's a parent's decision. You know, the parents have to do their research, and every parent has to make that decision whether that's right for their son to play football.
Well,
What
my
do you think
opinion,
about that?
I think what the NFL is trying to do now with tackling, having mothers come down and teach them how to tackle, I think they're making as best an effort they can to try to put a cap on this thing. But it's like closing the horses out of the stable. You want to close the gate now, put the toothpaste back in the tube. You can't do it. To believe that there's not major things going on with the concussions, everything else is ludicrous. And I always thought I would let my kids play football had I had children. Today, I would say I would veer them the other way. I wouldn't tell them you can't, but I would strongly advise they would not.
Don't you think the NFL knew and they kind of swept it under the rug?
I think it's like R.J. Reynolds all over again.
Right.
You know, I think I saw Bill Polian on the other day saying there's no evidence of concussions. You see Goodell going up there, absolutely you're safe in the stands. It's crazy. And for us to believe that is we're drinking the Kool-Aid.
Well, the real doctor, that Will Smith's character,
yeah.
I mean, he said not only, you know, the violent hits, but the cumulative effect of just all the repetitive you know, hits, the regular hits are very detrimental, especially to a younger kid's brains. And, you know, he's very emphatic that they should not play.
I'm 57 years old. I'm a fairly young man. And the other day I'm looking for my hat that I wear every day almost, and it's out in my car, and I could have swore I had it there, you know, because I used to be able to jump over cars. Now I can't find my car. So I don't know, you know, I mean, it's sort of coincidental, and it's funny now, but it's not going to be funny if I forget to eat a meal because I'm hungry and I don't know it.
You told a story last time you were on the show where you hit a guy so hard, but you felt the effect too. And you said you had to look down at your uniform to see what color, to see which sideline you had to go to.
We're playing Columbia in the Meadowlands, and it was a kickoff. I get up and I see guy running to the end zone, and I'm like, okay, it might be good or bad. And I look down, they had the baby blue on, we had the white, we were the visiting team, and I had to run to that sideline. So some of my buddies, I know you stayed there with Anthony Vigorito of Virginia.
But, you know, it's a tough issue because I remember watching the very first game, the Thursday night game with Cam Newton, and it looked like Denver was targeting him, and the refs would not, you know, get him off the field because it almost wasn't fair because that's exactly what they wanted. So, you know, where do you draw the balance? You want to protect the players.
Well, Nike and the Oikos, the yogurt people, are not going to be happy if their boy's not on the field playing, and it's really unfortunate for the player because once he's done, they're going to get a new guy come in and exploit him.
See, and it has kind of a chain reaction. So if the young kids don't play, then they feed the high schools, and then they feed the colleges, and then it eventually affects the pros. So, you know, they
major business,
why
major
viewership is down, but
Yeah.
this could be part of it.
You know, the beer companies, it's this. That overtime, I think, made $500 million in more advertising just for the few minutes of overtime. $500 million of commercial time was generated in the overtime period. There was nothing.
That was a bonanza for them, right.
It was a few minutes. It's documented. $500 million in advertising in just that short overtime.
Well, you brought two very impressive helmets with you. Is there anything that they could do, maybe with the helmet or anything as far as, you said on the last show, you said, the guys are getting bigger, stronger, and faster, and these collisions are kind of, inevitable.
I think Vince Lombardi said it's not a contact sport, it's a collision sport. So if you have two cars collide, I don't care, unless you get that GPS and makes them stop from hitting each other, the rubber bumpers is not going to help the collision. Inertia is what it is. Right. So the brain's floating in your skull. So even if you pad it, it's not even the major hits anymore. They say it's the not so major hits. So look at boxers, look at Ali, look at Gaston now, Parkinson's, and
right. It's what my brother mentioned in what he was referring to, the cumulative effect. Just that that constant.
And we're gonna learn 5-10 years from now or sooner, and then the NFL the bottom might fall out of it.
Right, which is mind-boggling because there's so much money in the game, right, Andy? So
there's
always going to be somebody willing to take a chance.
It's like Pfizer with Vicodin.
Poverty,
I mean, you have major pharmacy companies. They're not going to. They can't. The fines don't matter. So it's going to take a lot to stop this freight train. It's not going to stop on a dime.
Right.
Bringing it back to Rutgers for a moment, you're good friends with Marco Battaglia. Just tell us a little bit of him, and he was honored very,
Well, Marco, I saw, my friend Ernie and I were at a spring practice many years ago, and we saw, I said, that kid's a stud. And ironically enough, he's doing fundraising for Rutgers. He's an All-American, played 7 years in the league or more, 2 Super Bowl teams. He did a fundraiser, and the people who raised the money, he's such a really likable guy. He might buy me a dinner after he sees this, but they got to choose who they named this $100 million facility after. He got major part of the funding. They're going to name this new practice facility at Rutgers after Marco, and hopefully that'll be our springboard to bring the Rutgers to where they need to be in the Big Ten is competitive, which they're not right now.
Maybe they could win a conference game.
We need maybe Marco will go back and play.
Had a great career, a local guy too from Howard Beach, no less, right?
St. Francis Prep, Bill Piquel, Marco Battaglia. St. Francis Prep has been good to us. Kyle Flood was also from St. Francis Prep.
I think he's got a ring too, right? He played for Tampa Bay.
He played with Tampa Bay. Yeah. I think he's going to get mad, but he played on 2 Super Bowls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was with the Bengals for a long time.
Right. Wow. Andy, when you look at,
I think he dyes his hair. I just want to say it on the record. Okay. Okay. That's an inside joke we have. Okay.
Andy, when you look at your resume, you were a superstar at Rutgers, and you're on a team again, being the captain. When you have guys that went on to have NFL careers, I mean that says a lot about you, not only athletically but your leadership, because you always were that kind of guy. We talked about that you were a champ from the time you were playing Pee Wee football, and you try out with the Giants, and really when you think of that, Parcells is, I don't want to call him an SOB, but I mean he's tough. It's my way or the highway, right. And you went on to a career that included, and we talked about it, the Jersey Generals. You played with Herschel Walker. You played for George Allen, a legendary coach.
Bad.
That's not bad. You played DeBartolo. You played for that team. Even when you were 39 years old, you were playing arena football at Madison Square Garden. Now, but put you on the spot a little bit, and I'm watching the Grammys last week, and Adele is singing. And then she stops because she doesn't like the way the song is going. And she goes, basically, she says, she starts cursing and she says, I'm starting over. Basically, I want, there's Adele. She got a great voice.
I'm surprised you were watching the Grammys.
You know what? I mean, I got to admit, she has a great voice. Adele has a great voice, yeah. But the thing is that she asks for a do-over. Yeah. And Andy, I'll put you on the spot because Belichick wanted you. Parcells said, I remember this kid. If you had a do-over to go back to that Giant tryout, would you go back and would you play it any differently with Parcells? I don't want to say kiss his ass, but would you play it any different?
I think you have to be true to one person, that's yourself. And I look myself in the mirror. I go to sleep at night probably a lot earlier now than I used to. But I love the fact that a guy like Bill Belichick recognized what I was. For whatever it's worth or not worth, I still cost whatever it is to get on the bus these days. But
pretty cool.
He's a guy that, of the test of time, has proven to be, I believe, one of the best over with salary caps and everything else. He's really proven in this new game to be so successful that he recognized me and liked me and took me under his wing. I mean, to me, that's worth
We
A
agree,
gold
we
guy.
agree with you
100%.
100%. You know what? You were always a stand-up guy.
Thank you.
You were always a leader, and you're always a man's man. And again, you stood up to Parcells, and like I said, Parcells, we saw what he did with, even like Phil Simms and everything like that. It's like
Bavaro.
beyond,
Yeah.
whatever. So, but here's what we want to say. We want to congratulate you because what we want to do is we want to tell our viewers, after your football career, you became a very successful businessman, and you're a gym owner, and you have a lot to be proud of
Thank you.
as far as that goes. You started a franchise, and
Thank you.
you still own and operate them to this day. It's public TV.
Yeah, I was.
So if I say
no.
whatever the case may be, it's considered a plug. But you want to know something? You are very, very successful. You opened probably 100 gyms in your
Yeah.
life. You sold them off, and then you retained and you own and operate a number of them.
Yeah.
And you run a great establishment,
Thank
and you're
you.
doing a lot of good because people come to you and you help them, and it's it's a credit. And the funny thing is, and I'll give you the last word at that point, but really, Anthony, when you think about it, if he would have played in the NFL, you don't know. Concussions could have
Right.
been
Might have
serious,
turned out for the better.
paralyzed, whatever the
Probably did
case
turn
may
out
be.
for the better.
Andy, my brother pointed out how kind of just amazing it is with the concussions. Then when you also think, there was a Forbes article that said 80% of retired NFL players go broke, and there's a whole litany of reasons why. But you were able to transition, and we give you credit. Do you have shed any light on that? What did you do right to kind of?
Well, they say the average career is about 2.9 years. So by knocking around, I almost played that long, trying to get a job, going from team to team to team. It's going to end for everybody at some point. Some guys later know. And you're in college. You think you play a few years in the NFL, or you're going to be good for life. You're not even good for that year. So you're not really planning for the next job. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I look back now, I get scared. So I feel fortunate that now, as I'm older, and I got my aches and pains, and Dino Mangiero, my friend, had his hips replaced twice. Bill Pickell had his hips replaced already.
Yeah,
I'm probably at the cusp of
long
getting that
range of
done.
effects.
So you know something, the physical, the mental thing, and the fact that I had to go to work wound up being a blessing in disguise.
You're right. Andy, I want to thank you for coming down. I was going to put a picture, I was going to put a graphic up of your gym, but you want to know, I don't have to. First of all,
People know me.
Yeah, people know you.
I've been around
And
too
the
long.
second thing is,
Yeah,
if anything, your gyms are overcrowded, where it's just like
Thank
people
you.
can't get in. So and that's not even why you came down. You came down as a favor to me because I picked up the phone. I said, Andy, Rutgers, such a tie-in with Belichick and everything like that. So I want to thank you for stopping down, Andy. I want to have you
It's always
back on
my
again
pleasure.
real soon. Andy
Always my
Carino,
pleasure.
everybody.
Gotta come back. We got more
Thank you, guys.
stories.
Thank you.